All right. What is up, everybody? And welcome to another live stream featuring myself and my good friend, Dagger Dan Koob, Dan the Man Koob, Dirty Dan. And today we get Spicy Dan. Dan, welcome.
What an intro. Wow. Not sure how to follow that one up. Dirty Dan's probably my favorite name. I'll grow out my mustache in order to rectify that one.
Yeah.
We're spicy today. We're hot. We're bothered. We're spicy. We've got things to get off our chest. Not a bench press, apparently. But we're here and we're feeling okay. And you're joining us from a different locale. I'm back in the Godfather chair. We're going to have a hell of a time.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I am staying at a friend's house in an undisclosed location in this exact address in California, sleeping on my friend's couch. It's a hot day in the Bay Area.
Hot day. It's a hot day.
It's a hot one.
Oh, yeah.
And no place in this area has air conditioning. So I've been getting great sleep. You, as a father of a 1-year-old at this point, how old is she? A girl dad?
Well, she is over a year old.
She's over a year old. So I'm sure you're sleeping great at this point, right?
Yeah, like a baby.
Yeah,
we
like
sleep the same way a baby sleeps, which is not a ton.
There you go.
Not a ton.
Well, you look great. I mentioned this before we hopped on. I've been doing nothing but watching Phillies postseason runs from years past. Last year, 2008. I watched Eagles Super Bowl highlights from 2017. I don't acknowledge last year's Super Bowl season because the Phillies loss was okay. The Eagles loss still upsets me. So I disavow that season. But 2017, I watched Nick Foles mic'd up. Been a good day.
Last year's Phillies run just felt like house money, right?
Yeah.
Like they really had no business being there. So it was nothing but fun. And when Alvarez sends an Alvarado pitch 800 feet out of Citizens or out of wherever they call the Astros Stadium now, it's kind of like, well, that was a fun month.
Yeah,
but it's over now. Now this Braves series is going to be incredible. Like I honestly think these are maybe two of the top 3 teams in Major League Baseball, and the fact that they're playing the NLDS is like a crime. I think it's such a shame, and they need 7. Like this going 5. Whoever wins, it may not even be a clear indication of who the better team is. Just the small sample size of baseball. Super excited for that one. I actually watched the Super Bowl the other day for the first time since it actually was played. And I felt nothing.
This most recent one.
Yeah, the most recent one. So I feel like I've moved on a little bit. Last year was just a charmed season for the Eagles. I mean, I'm sure you have friends doing this too. They're 4-0. People are texting you like, man, I don't get it. Like, why are these games so close? Like, I thought they were so good. It's like last year was the outlier of outliers. Like, they just crushed everybody. And there are a lot of factors that go into why that is. Not every season is going to be that way. So here we are. But hey, they're 4-0. Phils are going to the NLDS. Stott with a huge grand slammy last night. Just the vibes are high. Vibes are high.
Vibes are immaculately high.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can parlay that into some success for today's live stream, Thursday Night Football. Just a resounding success of a game between Bears versus Commanders. Never forget, we got this exact matchup Thursday Night Football last year, a game in which the Commanders won 12-7 with Carson Wentz at quarterback. Their last touchdown drive to take the lead was off a muffed punt, 2 plays, 6 yards, both Brian Robinson runs. Caesars said that this game should have fireworks. That's what they sent in a promotional email, which I found hilarious because whatever intern wrote that one was just grasping for straws. I'm down
on Caesars right now, as I told you and our good friend we've also never met, Tommy Viola, from Undebated. Real down on Caesars, but I got the last laugh there.
There you go. I love it. Fantasy question. No one cares about your fantasy team, Justin.
Oh, interesting one.
But who would you rather start, Justin Fields or Jordan Love?
Jordan Love. Go ahead. Good.
Justin Fields for me.
Okay. Jordan Love, QB4 right now.
Didn't know that. Okay.
Do your research.
Well, wasn't prepared.
QB4, he gets the Las Vegas Raiders matchup on Monday Night Football. Maybe one of the, other than the Chargers, maybe the worst home field advantage of any stadium, and nobody travels better than the Packers. Aaron Jones should get a full complement of snaps. Christian Watson should be back, a full complement of snaps, and Romeo Doubs has looked really good too. And I'll say one thing that Love gives you that's a little underrated is his legs. I think he's averaging around 35 to 40 yards rushing. He's got a couple rushing touchdowns this year. I say all this because I have Jordan Love in fantasy, and I am currently trying to decide whether to start him or Goff. And I think the differentiator there, Lions at home road splits very different for Goff. The main differentiator for me there is Jordan Love's legs. He uses them and Goff doesn't.
Yeah, I think I would probably go Love there. Fields, I just can't give up on him. He's been terrible.
Can't quit him.
Well, I can't quit him as a fantasy quarterback. I think I never even had him to be able to quit him in the first place as a real life quarterback. But as a fantasy one, just because he can run, it's a cheat code in fantasy. But so we're on opposite sides. I hope that was helpful that we gave you two different answers, but that's what you get. So this game, Bears versus Commanders. Interesting spread movement. Commanders were universally 6.5 for the majority of the week. And then recently, past 24 hours or so, moved down to +6. That's pretty much everywhere. And you can get them at -5.5. The graphic is a little bit outdated. You can now get them -5.5, -115 odds at DraftKings. I will let you get started first. Do you have anything on the main lines? And I would love to hear all of the analysis that you have, your pick, your reasoning why. I want to hear everything.
I appreciate that. I know you're somebody who doesn't want a quick answer, right? You want someone who wants the reasoned answer behind it, unlike many American bettors. Much appreciated. Yeah. This line at Sporttrade specifically, I worked there, opened at 5.5 last week, like it did everywhere. It got up to 6.5, kind of stayed right there. We still have it at 6.5, but we have it currently at +106. So that should tell you that most of the market has moved to 6. We don't do round numbers. We only do halves. That way you can't push on the app. This is an interesting number. I'll kind of run you through my thought. The Bears secondary is basically gone. No Jalen Johnson already ruled out. No Eddie Jackson already ruled out. Jaquan Brisker is questionable. He had a hamstring pull yesterday in practice. I've been fortunate enough to cover the NFL, so I know a couple of people around the league, and I was talking to some folks around this team every day, and they were like, something people don't understand is that Jaquan Brisker is actually like a big loss for them. But when I watch him play, he doesn't give you anything.
You're unimpressed.
He's very unimpressed. He doesn't give them anything in run support. He doesn't really tackling angles, horrific. Most of the Broncos rushing touchdowns last week were because he took a bad angle and missed a tackle. So to me, it doesn't really matter. But the bottom line is their secondary is gone. And they're left with Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith, and Greg Stroman. Stevenson is a second-round rookie this year. Terrell Smith is a fifth-round pick this year. And Stroman was a seventh-round pick who's only played in 4 games since 2019. So I'm looking at the lack of skill, the lack of pedigree in the secondary. I'm looking at Terry McLaurin and Johan Dotson and Curtis Samuel. 2 of them were on the injury report this week, but they're both going to play in Curtis Samuel and also Johan Dotson. And then I look at the Bears' defense. They don't rush the passer well. They have 2 sacks this year. And on their offensive line, it's bad. And then on their offensive line, they're missing one of their best guards. Tevin Jenkins has been activated from IR. He's going to play tonight. But is a guard going to save them? I just don't think there's a lot of positive things to say about this team. But having said that, the question for me, Matt, is this just too many points? Obviously, the market felt as though there was no way in hell that they were going to give the Commanders 7 or go over 7, right? So this never really got to that point. It's at 6 now, 6.5 other places. I just don't know if I can get to the point where I can take a Commanders team to win by a touchdown. I just don't know.
That's fair. That's definitely the scary part. And, the Bears second half of last year, they lost every game, but they covered basically every game. Like every game was close when they decided to run Justin Fields. This year has not been like that, aside from the most recent loss when they blew a 28-7 lead. They've been blown out. I find it hilarious that this is probably the first game since, I don't know, basically I was 1 year old where the Commanders were not the biggest dumpster fire of an organization. Somehow they're playing in a game where their opponent is a bigger dumpster fire. I don't think you can put a number on that because whatever's going on in Chicago has not been good. Yeah. And the Bears, 31st overall in DVOA, 32nd ranked offense, 28th ranked offense, 31st ranked defense. They don't do anything right. They're banged up. they set their mixed messaging on whether they sent home receiver whose name I'm forgetting.
Chase Claypool.
Yeah, Chase Claypool, whether they sent him home, whether he didn't show up. Justin Fields is blaming coaching, except not really blaming coaching. Even in a game in which he showed something last week, it was against the Broncos defense that just gave up 70 points, and he still had a fumble return for a touchdown. It's like he just can't get anything right. And last week he threw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's like even when he was mediocrely good last year, it was from his legs, not passing. So I'm on the Commanders on this one. I don't know if I'm just putting too much stock into having watched them closely last week when they played the Eagles. I think that they're fine. Like I'll probably put them as a 6 or 7 seed in the NFC, probably. They're 2-2, but they lost to the Bills and to the Eagles last week, and that game could have gone either way. Granted, the refs, we don't need to talk about the refs. It was some questionable calls, but still that game could have gone either way. If Reed Blankenship's forearm was like 4 inches in either direction, Terry McLaurin gets beat down. It's a totally different game. So I like the Commanders in this one. I get it. It's risky expecting the Commanders just to come in and take care of business, but I like Sam Howell. I think Eric Bieniemy's done some interesting stuff. They have talent on defense. So yeah, I like the Commanders on this one. I got them at 6.5. I don't love the fact that the lines have moved against me. I got them at 6.5 on Sporttrade at -115. So that's a CLVL.
Ooh, yeah. But you know what you could do though is since the line has moved so aggressively, you could lower your average cost by either doubling down, or if you're that confident, and then you would basically average that out. So you said you got it at -115, I believe, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's +106. So what's the median of that? That's or the mean rather. That's what, -105?
Something like that. Yeah. That's about,
so you could move that to -105 if you wanted to.
I could do that. I'm in California, so I
guess you can't do that.
So I can't do that, but it's a good idea in theory.
Yeah.
Nice selling point on Sporttrade there. One of my good friends in the business world, Sporttrade as the company. So yeah, I'm on the Commanders on this.
More than business partners, cozy relationship. Very cozy.
I'm spending the week sleeping on couches. You've offered up these couch at Sporttrade. I might take you up on that at some point and make my way down to Camden.
Please do. Well, you know what? I'll even bring a cot. I'll bring you a cot. Take the cot.
Wow. I was better lodging than I'm currently getting. So so yeah, I'm on the Commanders. I don't know if you didn't give a pick on this one. A lot of analysis, which we love. But I'll take the Commanders spread. Lucky Lib, money line or player props. Right now we're talking straight up. I'm on the Commanders. Technically -6.5. I like them even more. -6.5 at plus money, or if you want to be a little bit safer, 6 or 5.5.
Yeah, I didn't give a pick. I'm not betting the spread tonight. I just can't justify it. Money line, I think the Commanders are just better, honestly. Not saying a whole lot there. Both offensive lines are bad. 2 of the top 3 teams in terms of sacks allowed tonight. 24 for the Commanders. A lot of that's Sam Howell's fault. The Bears have allowed 17. I just thought the stat was interesting. Both are allowing sacks above 12% of dropbacks, which is horrific.
That's crazy.
The league average is 7.2. So that's really bad. Again, part of that is the coaching staffs, I think, are not, well, I should say the coaching staff for the Bears is bad. Sam Howell holds the ball for the Commanders, just like Carson Wentz before him. But yeah, I would say Commanders money line for Lucky Lib. And then 6.5, I'm not touching. If it gets down to 5.5 before kickoff, it still doesn't really do much for me. It's not a key number.
Yeah.
So I'm probably sitting it out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Kenneth Witt says Bears haven't been 0-5 since 97. To be honest,
Kenneth, that doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean anything.
Thank you for watching and commenting, but that doesn't mean anything.
Do you know how many? You know what? Here's a great homework assignment for everyone, including Kenneth. How many players currently on the team were alive in 1997? That's what I want to know. Yeah,
that's a good question. And also, up until the Super Bowl, an MVP hadn't won the Super Bowl in forever. So what's is the lesson there? MVPs are bad, and you don't want to win MVP.
I don't know.
Yeah. Some comments here. Mr. Mechanical, good friend, always tunes in. Appreciate him.
Yeah.
We'll get to the player props. I like the Brian Robinson angle. The same. I don't love taking 2 or 3 players on the Commanders all to go over their receptions prop. That's just a little bit scary, and you're just inviting yourself. Like the correlation there is scary. I do like Howell on the rush. And then, yeah, Justin Credible Fantasy, excuse me. Love that name. Thoughts on Brian Robinson over 63 rushing yards? That's one of my player props, sneak preview. So I like it. DJ Moore, 4 receptions. I don't love backing anybody that Justin Fields is throwing to, even though Moore had a good game last week. So I probably would sit that one out. But just Brian Robinson, I love. You have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I actually was thinking about this earlier, and I went to go bet it and saw it was at 63, and I kind of backed off. He's run the ball well. It's more of just an opportunity thing, like how the game goes. In games in which, they have control, he is seeing 18.5 carries a game. In games where they don't control, he's not seeing anywhere near that. So presumably this is a game where they're going to be able to possess the football, run the football, third, fourth quarter, just kind of kill this clock with a lead. In that case, I like it. It just depends on price. I just personally haven't gone and bet it. But Mr. Mechanical, also great to see you again.
Yeah, great friend. Cool. All right, we can move on to player props. I already gave out my 2. Brian Robinson, anytime touchdown. Brian Robinson, rushing yards. I like both of them. He scored in 3 of 4 games this year. The only game he didn't score was the game in which the Commanders didn't score an offensive touchdown against the Bills.
That'll do it.
Good. The Bills looking good. Only real idiot would have predicted them to not make the playoffs this year. I'm glad that no one on this show did that, because that would be embarrassing. And yeah, he's looked good. He gets like 75% of their red zone carries. Like I said, he scored in 3 of 4. He even scored on a receiving touchdown, which is not really something you would expect a lot from him. Then the rushing yards is mostly just a play on the game script. I'm expecting the Commanders to be, even if they don't cover the spread, not ever have to be a point where they have to throw the ball the entire game. Like, I mean, the game against the Eagles was the game in which they basically led the most, because they were down most of the Cardinals game. And the Broncos game, they had a huge comeback, and then they got smoked by the Bills. But the Eagles defense is like the best against the run. The Bears defense is very much not. So he's not the most efficient runner, but if he's getting 18 plus carries, which I project him to, he's going to hit the rushing total. So those are the 2 I like. I'm all over Brian Robinson.
I like it. We got a question from Kenneth again about Gibson over 14.5 receiving yards. So I looked up his stats here. He's got a 43.8% snap share. To me, this is all about opportunity more than anything else. 24.5% opportunity share. He's only got 10 targets all season. So you're really hoping for a dump off that goes for a first down plus. Again, it all depends on price. I'm a price sensitive bettor. It all kind of depends on what I can get the number at. Yeah, and we've got another comment addressing that specifically. So, well, it looks like it went from 13.5 or 14.5 to 13.5. 13.5, I think, is a little more attractive. But again, it's opportunity. He doesn't get the opportunities, frankly. 10 targets in 4 games, as I mentioned. His snap share is around 45%. I don't love it, but if the price is good, then I would probably snag that up.
Yeah, I don't love it either. He's more so, I mean, he's got a fumbling issue. So like one fumble and he's just toast. And he's more of the receiving back. And if they're not losing, he's probably not going to see a lot of the field. So I would go more with the Brian Robinson rushing. Another one, passing yards for Justin Fields. I haven't looked into this one a ton, so I don't really have a ton of research on this, but I love just fading what happened most recently, where he threw for 335 passing yards.
Well, I think it's his first game ever with over 300 yards. So like, and the Broncos are proving week in and week out that they're awful. They're just an outlier. Like everyone has a huge day. So I'm not reading much into that.
Yeah, correct. He has gone over this in 3 of 4 games this year, but the game he didn't, he threw for 99. It's at like 192, which is such a low total.
So I'm saying 192s. FanDuel has it at 189.5. If you really like it at minus 110. So that's actually, but I know you said that FanDuel is sort of the bane of your existence when it comes to these props.
Yeah, they are. They're generally sharp, although that strategy has failed me recently. So I know nothing is the lesson here. I would lean under. I'm not personally touching it or recommending it. If you're asking for advice, I would lean towards the under. Like I said, just fade what happened recently, and more often than not, these things will even out. That's just kind of how sports work in general.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if he has an outlier performance, he's not going to average 330.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's going to average 200
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you have any the sack props have been looking good recently?
Sack props have been profitable. That's kind of my bread and butter. However, I don't have a very strong lean on it. I mean, the Bears offensive line sucks, as I've mentioned. But no new tackles. I mean, these guys have been playing. Obviously, the narrative is look at all these first round picks for the Commanders, but like Chase Young has done nothing. Montez Sweat has done nothing. Deron Payne is an inside rusher going against maybe Tevin Jenkins, who's going to play tonight. So no real lean there. I will tell you, I do have a play for the total though, 44.5.
Okay.
I'm just making sure that that's still the play. Yeah, 44.5. Minus 104 is for both the over and under. So that's a really tight market there on Sporttrade.
8 cents is really good.
Yeah. So in order to figure this out, so we do a show every Thursday night during the game with the whale capper Drew Dinsick, and he said something really interesting last week, and it was if you have a lean on a total, over under doesn't matter. You have to be certain that you understand A, the coaches involved, both coaches, and B, the game plan involved for both coaches. Meaning, if you're on an over, you need to be certain that these coaches have aggressive mindsets and they're coming out to score, right? Like we saw that last week with the Lions. They came out, they ran play action, they got vertical, routinely got vertical. The Packers tried to do the same thing. Jordan Love takes a lot of chances. Conversely, on the under, if you know a coach is going to be more conservative, then obviously the game plan costs them to try to string this thing out and there'll be less scoring. So I went back and looked at the first 15 scripted plays for both teams through 4 weeks. And here's kind of what I found. So the first 4 weeks for the Bears, some rough accounting, about 15 to 20 plays. Basically, within that scripted period, they have 2 touchdowns, a field goal, and 2 punts. That's pretty good relative to their other offensive production, right?
Yeah.
For Washington, the first 15 to 20 plays in 4 games, 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals, and a pick. And that's it.
Pick in the end zone, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So what we learned from that is Eric Bieniemy, very good offensive coordinator, right? Trust him. Know he wants to be aggressive. He's seeing the injury report. He's saying, we can get these guys. We have the talent. I'm going for it. And for the Bears, you have to imagine they've performed better offensively relative to off script, right? In the first part of a game. And when they're off script, they're usually trailing. So they are chasing points at the end of games. So 44.5, not a huge number. It's not the lowest number out there, but it's not a high number.
Yeah.
So I like the over 44.5. I like that the spread is only 8 cents. I think this is a really good play here.
So would you say that a good strategy could be you take the over, you hope and assume that they're both going to get out to good first drives, and then you sell out of that and the off chance that the Bears just offense gets stuck in mud?
It's a great question. Typically, I'm learning, right? I'm not a sharp. I'm not an expert. I'm learning with the rest of us. Mm-hmm. I have learned that I almost never bet totals pregame. If I have a lean on this, depending on the first several plays, if it's very obvious that a team wants to be aggressive, I'm willing to take a couple cents, depending on price fluctuation, on an over or an under, to then get into a position that I'm more confident in. When trading, and tonight I fully plan on, I'm going to sit right here for our show at 7:50, watch it on the Sporttrade feed. I'm going to sit right here and I'm going to watch first couple plays. And if Washington gets the ball first, Eric Bieniemy is going to be aggressive. So I'm hopping on it, right? If the Bears get the ball first, it depends. If they defer, then Washington gets the ball first and going over. If they take it, I'm going to watch a couple plays to sort of determine what their game plan looks like. Because honestly, this Matt Eberflus staff doesn't look good. And you've mentioned the off the field turmoil, and it's just all bad juju. And they've lost 14 straight regular season games. He could be fired tomorrow. So I'm sitting that out if the Bears take the ball first. But Commanders are getting the ball first, a couple plays in. If it's obvious that Bieniemy is trying to light up the scoreboard, I'm in.
That makes sense. And if you had to think of an application that offers the best in-play live betting that is located in states such as Colorado and New Jersey, could you think of one off the top of your head?
Let me think. There's one called Sporttrade, which is great. And if you sign up for it right now in either of those states, use promo code MODI. In that case, Matt gets a little bit of extra juice there. So please sign up for promo code for Sporttrade rather with promo code MODI. Maybe get some attribution for our boy.
There we go. Yes, please do that if you're in New Jersey or Colorado, and not even because we have a partnership. You're consistently getting the best odds at Sporttrade. Dan mentioned it. -104 on each side of a main line is crazy. You're never going to see that at a sportsbook. You're almost always going to get 20 cents of juice, whether it's like -115, -105, or -110, whatever it may be. -104 each way is crazy.
It's tight. It's a tight market.
It's very tight.
Tight like a tiger.
All right. Anything left in this game specifically, or do you want to move on to? Let's do a question that I didn't prepare you for.
Well, just one other prop, because we were looking at it, and I know you're on Brian Robinson. I was looking at Terry McLaurin props again, just pursuant to the point that the Bears have no one in their secondary. And I was going through again this number. Interesting. I haven't done a ton of research on this. I kind of just want to call it out. Stand by. Sorry. Let's see.
So his over under is at 57.5.
Okay. I love that. 57.5. I like that a lot. That seems like that could be 2 plays for me. In a game in which I see it now. Yeah. 57.5. In a game in which, could potentially get out of hand somewhat early. I imagine they will lean on Scary Terry there.
Yeah. I mean, he's awesome. I feel like I don't watch every Commanders game. Whenever they play the Eagles, he consistently torches them always from the beginning of time, just torches them. But I like it. I mean, you mentioned the secondary, 57.5, pretty much. I mean, BetMGM, DraftKings, FanDuel has it at 60.5. Looks like some DFS has it at 60.5, and Bet Online, which is a pretty sharp book, has it at 60.5 while also favoring the over, has the over at -125. So 57.5 is pretty good. I like that. I think if I was in a legal betting state, I would probably take that as we speak.
There you go.
All right. Anything else for this game?
No, that's it. I'm just waiting with bated breath for this question that you said you had for me.
Sure. I didn't want to prepare you for it because I wanted to get your honest reaction.
Sure.
We spent pretty much from February, whatever the day after the Super Bowl was, right up until the season started, roasting Jonathan Gannon. Through 4 games, the Cardinals look shockingly competent. I said that wrong. One would even say they look good. Josh Dobbs looks good. Their defense, the creativity that I've seen from Jonathan Gannon on defense is astonishing because we didn't see that for 2 years in Philadelphia. They should have probably beat the Commanders in week 1. They did us a favor by beating the Cowboys. Do we have to take an L on the Jonathan Gannon slander because of the Cardinals have looked pretty good so far through 4 games, or no? Is it?
Well, and they should have beat the Broncos too.
The Giants, you mean?
Oh, the Giants. So yeah. Should have beat the Giants.
Yeah. I mean, they blew a huge lead at halftime.
Yeah. So what's your question? Do I have to believe in this guy after four games? This is classic content creation. This is classic small sample size theater. No, I don't feel like I have to do anything. They are incentivized to try as hard as possible because they don't have a first round pick.
That is no, they have 2 first round picks.
Oh, no, that's right. No, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Right. The Texans don't have, right.
Correct.
Yeah. No, it still doesn't matter to me. Honestly, it's 4 games. Like,
okay.
I'm not that worried. His offensive philosophy, not a lot of tape on. His defensive philosophy, I mean, he didn't do shit in Philly. Like, they basically just ran zone.
Yeah.
They had so much talent. They didn't have to do a whole lot. No, I am not taking an L on this. We're going to let this play out. If we look up in 3 months and the Cardinals are 4-13, I'm not going to be surprised at all.
Okay. All right. I think that's reasonable. I'm starting to get a little bit scared that they might not. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be good, but if they win like 7-8 games, I think the city of Philadelphia would have to take an L on the Jonathan Gannon slander.
But like, why? Well,
because
the fact remains that he was planning a job interview whilst preparing for a Super Bowl, and then went out there Well, Shane Steichen still did his job. I guess his unit put up 35 points in a Super Bowl. Gannon's allowed 38. What do you want?
Technically 31 because Hurts fumbled and
Whatever.
they got no, I mean that's fair. I think a lot. I mean, and I was on board with this, so I'm not saying that I'm not saying that. Oh, I was always in on Gannon, but they were like the favorite twice over to have the worst record in the NFL. Everyone was expecting them like to be the biggest mockery, like just a
They
huge.
still could.
They still could. No, yeah, they still could, but they got to win. The Bears. I don't know if the Bears are going to get to 2 wins this year.
Well,
I mean,
that's true. That's true.
yeah.
I don't know about that one.
So, all right. So you're still on the team. Jonathan Gannon is a loser, and you're not ready.
What do you think? What do you think happens if the Bears, who have Carolina's pick, who's also bad, and I mean the second Cardinals pick from the Texans is not particularly great, right? But what happens if we get to like week 17 and the Panthers and the Bears and the Cardinals all have like the worst records, and it's just a complete race to the bottom with one team that has 2 chances? I love that scenario.
It's gonna be very interesting. We're gonna see some NBA shenanigans where the Mavericks shut down Luka and Kyrie Irving because they're like, oh, we want to keep our lottery pick. We're definitely gonna see some shenanigans like that. But all right, I think that's reasonable. Not ready to buy after 4 games. I think that's fair. We can move on to week 5. I can't believe we're already at week 5. Week 5 lines that we like. I have 3 that I locked in before I went out to California. So I do have some skin on these ones specifically. So I'll go first. Yep. Give me the Jets plus 2.5 against the Broncos. I don't care that it's Zach Wilson. If there's anybody that can make Zach Wilson look good, it's the Broncos defense. I don't get why they're getting 2.5 points. So yeah, I don't have much more to say. I love watching Sean Payton fail because that guy's a dickhead. So give me give me the Jets plus 2.5 against the Broncos.
Okay. I like that one too. That was one of mine.
Okay, cool. And I guess you had some CLVWs. I guess I probably should have said that before I got into it. I forgot. Professional by me.
That's okay. We can skip it. I mean, it's Thursday of the next week. Not a big deal. We can bypass that. Yeah, I liked that one as well. One that I'm really finding difficult to jump on, Lions plus 10.
It's a lot of points.
Boy, just a lot of points. Carolina's not good, as I've mentioned on your program before. One I do like it. This feels like, the sharps would be on Falcons minus 2.5, and the square play feels like Texans plus 2. I just can't get over how bad Desmond Ridder is.
Yeah.
Home, away, it doesn't matter. He's just bad.
He's just bad. Yeah.
So I'm eyeing that one. If that one moves to 2.5, I mean, prayers up, it gets to 3. That would be amazing. I don't foresee it, but that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That's when I've got my eye on as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. Texans plus 1.5 was one of my plays last week on this channel. The Falcons were an upset pick, and you said I can't get there with Desmond Ridder. That's a W for Dan.
He just doesn't get me there. Doesn't get me there.
Yeah, no, I get it. Trust
just
me.
Staring at the ceiling. Staring at it.
Just waiting.
Just waiting for it to be over.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll never make the mistake of
Matt, I'm talking about sex. Okay. One of the other games I really like. I have a question for you. So you love Jonathan Gannon now. The Cardinals plus 3 at home against the Bengals, who have the worst offense in the National Football League. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's if I had to choose, I would choose the Cardinals, but I'm staying away because if like Jonathan Gannon just does a stupid prevent zone defense, Joe Burrow on one calf can light it up. We have seen nothing from the Bengals offense through 4 games. They look terrible. They scored 3 points in 2 separate games. And last week against the Titans was supposed to be the matchup that Joe Burrow could do well because the way you win against the Titans is through the air. That's a complete no touch for me. If I had to choose, I would choose the Cardinals because they look better than the Bengals have looked through 4 games. And Josh Dobbs looks good, but would I be happy with myself if I put money on Jonathan Gannon against Joe Burrow? No, I would not. So that's a no touch for me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I really only have those 3. I try not to go too heavy on spreads. I feel like that's a good way to drive yourself crazy. So those are my 3.
That is definitely true. Yeah, the last one I had was Packers minus 1.5. The Raiders.
Yeah, I think the Raiders suck. So I don't mind it, but yeah.
Yeah.
And sort of a backs against the wall thing. I mean, you can get you said -1.5 for Green Bay.
That's what I got them at. I haven't checked the most recent.
Okay. They're right now, you can get them at +1. The Raiders have moved to -2.5.
Okay. Wow.
So I don't know if that's like injury news related. Looks like Aaron Jones and Christian Watson have been slapped with questionable tags.
Okay.
But that's a bit of a surprising market movement, I think, unless Jimmy G has been reinstated, but that shouldn't inspire too much confidence.
I was going to say Jimmy G being back does talk about no movement. That does nothing for me.
Yeah, I mean, Rick's in the comments here. Green Bay's hurt. Raiders are just going to give Jacobs the ball. Yeah, I got to look at Devondre Campbell to see if he's going to play this week. He did not play against the Lions, and that was obviously felt in a big way. Jacobs has just been so inefficient. He had a great week last week, but he's been very inefficient with his touches. It'd be interesting if that one gets to 1 or I'm sure it's at 2.5. It's not going to get to a pick 'em, but I'd be curious to see where that lands. I think I'm sitting out that line until Sunday, but I am or Monday rather. But it's
curious. Monday night. Yeah. I guess that's another just a rough week for me. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't get them with CLV.
Yeah. Sure.
But yeah, I just don't get why the Raiders are favored. Like they're another organization that's just a total dumpster fire. The Chandler Jones stuff is weird. The Packers are also weird because they played 2 of the worst halves that anybody's ever seen the past 2 weeks. And then both times they turned it on in the second half. They were able to beat the Saints. They could not do that against the Lions, but the Lions are legit. I don't think that the Raiders are legit. So yeah, I don't know. Jordan Love, I feel like he can be a little bit scattershot, but I've kind of liked what I've seen. I like the fact that he's at least taking chances. He'll probably be able to do that against the Raiders to some success, and maybe Christian Watson plays a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean he's Mr. All or Nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, love the guy. There are guys who love their arms, and then there's Jordan Love. Like this guy thinks he's throwing 103 every time out. Like dude's trying to fill up the zone that doesn't even exist. Sometimes it works. Sometimes he throws multiple picks like he did Thursday.
Yeah, it's definitely very hit or miss. But I don't know. The Raiders just not. I don't know. Like why are the Raiders favored against anybody? Raheem Mostert anytime touchdown. Just to go through the comments here, I think does make sense against the Giants. That game. I mean, the
2 fumbles last week. 2 fumbles.
Yeah, and he didn't get because of that. I think he only played less. He played less than 50% of the snaps, and Achane got the majority of the work. But I think that'll probably be closer to a 50-50 split. And the Giants, I mean, I guess we haven't talked about them yet. Like, what a horrible performance.
What is there to say?
Yeah, I mean, they're terrible. That's really all there is to say. So yeah, I like it. I mean, Raheem Mostert anytime touchdown. Any one of those Dolphins running backs, I think is fair. All right. That's all I got for week 5 lines. That's all I got for nonsense. Dan, do you have anything left?
Two real quick things. One, Matt, could I interest you in $4,000?
You could interest me in $4,000. I'm assuming there's no catch involved.
There is none. We didn't plan this at all, actually. You can make $4,000 by leveraging all of these ridiculous sportsbook promos you see on your television and hedging them on Sporttrade. So we just posted on our website an entire video series that I did and that some of my coworkers did, walking you through each and every one of these hedges. I'll give you an example. If you don't have Caesars, you don't have MGM or anything like that, Caesars is a $1,000 sign-up bonus. Or I should say a risk-free bet, right? You deposit $1,000, you bet $1,000. If it loses, you get $1,000 back. There's a way to guarantee profit on that somewhere in the range of 70%. So instead of having $1,000 of non-withdrawable credit, you can have $700 of real money that you can withdraw right into your account within the time it takes for your bet to settle. So that interests you. We just put up on sporttrade.com an entire series of how to do this with every book in New Jersey, and we're working on our way through Colorado as well. Go check that out and hop on. And also 7:50 tonight, me and the whale capper, Drew Dinsick, talking strategically about your bets and how to sort of trade them and navigate them in real time. Get into the comments, tell us what your bet is on, and we'll break it down in real time. Check it out on our YouTube page.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, take advantage of those sign-up bonuses, especially with.
Oh my God, I've done it, Matt, myself, because I was like, well, I got to walk the walk if I'm going to do this. I've made $3,000. So,
and that's not even from using Sporttrade because you can't use Sporttrade, right?
No, I can't.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, everybody should definitely check that out, especially if you're, like you said, if you're new and you don't have any of those books. I know a lot of people back in my Odds Jam days that were starting off that basically funded their entire bankroll just from profits from leveraging sign-up bonuses and stuff.
Yeah, it's really not that hard either. Just pretty crazy.
Yeah, it seems daunting, but yeah, I guess if you have any questions, I will open Dan up for any questions.
Yeah, reach out, please.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Dan, I appreciate you as always for joining me. I should mention now there will be no stream next Thursday. I'll be traveling back east. Not going to have a stream next Sunday either. But yeah, let's go. This is the first time I'll say this in my life. Let's go Commanders. Let's go Brian Robinson. Let's all win all our bets tonight. Thanks, guys.